Director Matthew Vaughn of Kingsman and Kick-Ass fame apparently described his latest film Argylle as his ode to 80s action movies such as Die Hard and Lethal Weapon. I can only imagine Vaughn hasn't seen many 80s action films, as this movie demonstrates an understanding of them that's about as developed as my understanding of quantum mechanics and string theory. Argylle is a terrible film, and the fact that Apple bought the distribution rights to it for $200 million blows my mind. Did anyone there read the script? Did they watch the movie? Because it's a poorly acted, poorly plotted, poorly written, unfunny, tonally flip-flopping, ridiculous, absurd and absolutely massive waste of time. I could just leave the review there and tell you not to touch it with a barge pole, but I do think it's worth going into a bit more detail because it really is that bad. So here we go. Argylle centres on Ellie Conway, played by ever-bubbly Bryce Dallas Howard, an anxious spy novelist and author of 5 books in the Argylle series. On a train journey one day, she's saved from an unexpected attack by Sam Rockwell's real-life spy, Aidan White, who informs her that the evil organisation The Division is targeting her as her novels seem to predict its future. Needing to lay low, Ellie and Aidan go on a Bond-style globe-trotting adventure until they meet Samuel L. Jackson's Alfred Solomon, a former CIA deputy director. I won't spoil the revelation about Ellie's past that she gets from him, as it will basically spoil the entire conceit of the film, but suffice to say it's a big one that sets her and Aidan off in a new direction with questions that need answering. But will Ellie be able to unravel her mysteries, and in doing so, will she stop the Division in their attempts to kill her? Okay. I'd like to start with a few positives here, just to show that I'm not ragging on Argylle for the sake of it, but it's tough as there are very few. I suppose you can say that technically the film's well put together. It's slick, stylish, the Art Deco design for the most part is great, it's edited well, especially for a film that jumps around timelines, story worlds and story threads. It's fairly well paced for a 2-hour 90-minute comedy, and the many fight sequences are reasonably well done, even if the thumping background music thing gets a little old the 10th time you've seen it. But that's about where the good stuff ends. You see, by far the biggest problem with this film is its script. There are many others, which I'll get to, but they all orbit around this central issue of the writing. There are so many twists and turns, so much meandering in this film, all of it pointless and adding nothing in terms of character development, tension, intrigue. Had I not been reviewing it, I'd probably have walked out of the cinema in puzzled boredom. The first act's tolerable, with the writers setting up the characters and giving you a sense of where they might try and find some kind of arc. Then, from Act 2 onwards, they toss it all up in the air and never think about it again, instead focusing on silliness, fighting, pithy one-liners, absurd sequences involving ice skating, gunfights, knife fights. Amidst all this, they try and crowbar in a love story with all the weight of a feather in space, as well as some teary drama that Bryce Dallas Howard just doesn't have the acting chops to pull off. The exposition is unbearable, with characters just sitting in rooms or cars or on benches telling each other what the audience needs to know. Or worse, repeating what the audience has just seen, as if the filmmakers are trying to bail anyone out who's just been to the toilet. Scriptwriters need to get so much better at exposition. Blake Snyder of Save the Cat fame once coined the phrase "Pope in the pool," a theory of his that stated a writer should attempt to embroider any necessary exposition with something visually interesting. In his case, a pope swimming in a pool. Boy, did this movie need a lot of popes and a lot of pools. Argylle is billed as a comedy, but it isn't funny at all, even in the lighter first act. Jokes land with a thud, and some are just downright odd. There's a 2-minute long section where Bryce Dallas Howard and Sam Rockwell's characters joke about stamping on somebody's head. It's just weird, and the fact that they call back to it at the end of the film in a more emotional moment is even odder. There's a cat throughout the movie that serves no useful purpose whatsoever. Dallas Howard said that she based her character on Taylor Swift, who apparently walks around with a cat in her backpack. I don't really know what to say about that, other than perhaps films shouldn't be stuffing cats into their stories just because famous singers stuff them into bags. Characters act in ways they wouldn't based on what's established about them, just so the writers can squeeze in another silly action sequence. The plot's moved along with heavy coincidences at times, like the moment Sam Rockwell's character decides to do a dance because Ellie's taking too long to leave a house with him and finds a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards. There is a nice twist in the middle I didn't see coming, but it's over with in less than 5 minutes and has zero weight in the grand scheme of things. Ultimately, script-wise, Argylle is just all over the place, trying to do too much in too short a space of time and not doing any of it particularly well. I can't let this review slip by without commenting on what is a fairly decent cast. Henry Cavill, Bryce Dallas Howard, Sam Rockwell, Bryan Cranston, Ariana DeBose, Richard E. Grant, Samuel L. Jackson, Sophia Boutella, the list goes on. But why any of them opted to make this film, I've no idea. They certainly don't put much effort into things, apart from maybe Henry Cavill, who I generally like, but is in this film seldom, despite what the trailer might have you believe, and Bryce Dallas Howard, who is in the film a lot, but struggles to be believable in any way, shape or form. I don't mean to be too harsh here. Argylle isn't trying to be Goodfellas or The Godfather, but it has one or two emotional scenes, and Dallas Howard brings them to life with all the skill of a dead kipper. Add to this the physical nature of her role in the second half of the film, during which she looks like a grandma at times, and I don't think she'll be winning any Oscars for this one. Sam Rockwell's character, partway through the movie, says, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life," and I have to say it's a sentiment I was echoing all the way through Argylle. Other than dollars, and I don't think it will make too many of them anyway, certainly not as many as its backers will hope, I can't understand why anyone would pick up this script and want to make this film. It's old, cliched, even though it tries to bend them, and it says absolutely nothing about anything. Matthew Vaughn wanted to make an 80s action feeling film with this one, a throwback to an older time. But he twisted it and bent it and got the tone and cast so wrong that it's more like a cartoon. Austin Powers without the charm of Mike Myers, Bourne and John Wick without the emotional hook and style. Trust me, don't waste your money or your time. Anyway, nothing more to say. This is Movie Maverick signing out.